Now, I've seen many resumes that jump right from the professional summary right into their work experience. And I would like you to consider putting in more of an area of expertise or your core competencies or core skills, whatever you might want to call it. You can look at different examples out there. We'll be showing you some different examples coming up in a few lessons, so that you can get and then get into your work experience after that. And why is that? And what does this kind of look like? It's really more of like a bullet point list. I mean, you might see at the top where it's like, I know how to do these 4 programming languages. You list them, or it might be, just soft skills, leadership, team development, project management. Where you're really it's really just a little section of just a bunch of, kind of bulleted point words together, so to speak. And the idea of this is it's reflecting in a very easy to scan for a human or a machine, your core competencies. And certainly you want to make sure that you're using some of the phrases and things or the buzzwords or the keywords, mostly what I really want to mean is keywords that your potential employer is using too. Because you want to use those keywords to make it easy to scan by a machine or an algorithm and or a human. So remember, early on as we're doing our job search, the first thing that probably happens is a robot is going to look at your resume quickly in a nanosecond, trying to find those keywords, and then that'll help your resume to rise to the top, or at least not get screened out. Same thing with a human being. They've only got 7 seconds to 10 seconds, so they're going to look at it and say, okay, yeah, they do this, great. And you want to list this in here as both hard and soft skills, right? So a hard skill, let's say for an accountant, might be that I know certain particular software. So it might just literally say, expert in Great Plains and QuickBooks software, which are 2 accounting software packages. And obviously that if the place you're applying to, they might say, experience in Great Plains software, preferred or something like that. You want to, maybe adjust your resume and customize it to make sure that's in there, because the machines might be scanning for Great Plains software. And if they've got 100 candidates or 1,000 candidates that have Great Plains software experience, and you don't list it, then you might get screened out, unfortunately. So an expert in Great Plains and QuickBooks software. Or sometimes in these core competencies, because it's core competencies, you don't have to even put words like expert or software. Just put Great Plains, QuickBooks, and whatever else, Microsoft Office, whatever it might be. Excel, certainly Excel, like for an accountant. Because the person will know this is your areas of expertise. You've already said that at the top, but that you are an expert in Great Plains. So you don't have to list it out as a sentence. It's actually better, more as bulleted point words. Or soft skills like leadership, team development, those type of things. So, led virtual teams, for example, might be a good soft skill on there that somebody's looking for keywords like lead, leadership, virtual, teams. All those 3 things are right there are keywords. And the thing is, don't be humble, but certainly be truthful as well, too. You want to be thoroughly truthful. But don't say, well, I've got some Great Plains experience, but I'm really an expert in QuickBooks. That's what I'm really good at. But they're hiring for Great Plains. You'd list both. You don't have to necessarily, you could say, advanced expertise in QuickBooks if you want. But really, right now, at this point, you're trying to get an interview. You can discuss your experience later, and you can discuss your strengths and weaknesses later face-to-face with somebody when you have a chance to explain it more than on a resume or something like that, where somebody's going to screen you out quickly, whether that's a machine or a human being. They're going to go through. So don't be humble, but certainly be truthful. If you really don't know Great Plains at all, don't list it on there. In fact, let me give you a quick I don't want to say fun, it's actually a terrible example of somebody where that went wrong and why you don't want to do that. As far as somebody I knew back, gosh, it was a long time ago, like I think I was still in college or just out of college. And I had a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, and he had a friend who was kind of an acquaintance. I mean, he was kind of a scuzzy guy, to be honest with you. And and you'll see why in a moment. And he wanted to be a flight attendant. He just loved the idea of being a flight attendant, this guy. And this is not a picture of him, by the way, if you're looking at the picture, but, he kind of looks like him, actually. But he wanted to be a flight attendant, right? Really bad. He wanted to travel, wanted to be a flight attendant, loved to serve people, was a waiter for many years, and loved the idea of being a flight attendant. And he put on his, core competencies that he knew CPR, right? How to save a life, right? By resuscitating the heart or whatever, it stops using CPR. And so, that was attractive to people who might hire a flight attendant. You're up in the plane, there's nobody there, somebody has a heart attack, can somebody help him? Yes, this flight attendant can, he knows CPR. So there's a good reason to hire that person. And he told a story in an interview about how he saved a life using CPR. And the question was like, tell me about something that really made an impact on your life, was like the question. And he worked in the story and said, well, I know it might not be super job really, but I think it really is. And he told the story about how this person fell and nobody knew what to do. And he used CPR and he knew what to do and got everybody calm, and he saved the person's life. And the emergency people, when they got there, said, boy, this person would have been dead if you weren't here. Thank God you saved this man's life. And in his interview, he's telling this and says, boy, I felt so good about that. And, and that's something too, like if I'm up in an airplane and somebody has this happen, at least I know I can help them because I really want to help people. And because I know CPR, I can really help them. Boy, what a great answer to an interview question for one, right? And plus, that's a great skill that they might not necessarily be looking for specifically in a flight attendant, but it's a great extra skill to have. Now, guess what? None of it was true. Not a single word. All lies. He didn't know CPR. He never helped somebody. He never saved a life. It was all a lie. All a lie. And it helped him with this interview. He moved on in the process and told that story to several interviewers. And guess what? Yeah, he got a job. Some people do, some people don't. You think it's the way it goes sometimes, right? I wish people lied, didn't get jobs, but, fortunately, it can happen. Don't do it. Just think about it now. What if he got the job? And what if something happened? Like, let's say you had a really skilled interviewer who during the interview asked for more detail, right? Maybe especially if they knew a little bit about CPR themselves, like I know a little bit. I'm not going to say I know CPR, but I had CPR training when I was like in high school, or many 1,000 years ago. And I might say, oh, I didn't have that. I was trained that a long time ago, like in high school. I can't remember. Where do you put your hand exactly? Is it something like 2 fingers below the sternum, or is it down here, or is it up here? Because if you put it in the wrong place, you're going to maybe break the rib cage. Tell me where you do that, or how do you do that? And then I would watch the guy sweat, and then I watch the guy stumble, and I'd immediately say, that guy's lying to me. He's done. End of interview, end of that candidacy. So that's just an interview process. But what if it got even worse? What if he was hired, and he was in this case, and somebody needed help? Somebody actually is in the plane and somebody has a heart attack. And they're all like, well, John here knows CPR. John, help this man. And he wouldn't know what to do. And it might even cause more harm than good, actually. And then an investigation would happen and would find that he lied on his application. He lied in his interview process about knowing CPR, lied on his resume. So what can happen? Best case, he's fired, right? I mean, best case, you're certainly fired. You're out showing the door right there. You're fired. You're gone, termination gone. Worst case is like the company says, oh, I'm sorry this man had a heart attack and then had further injuries from breaking a rib cage or whatever it might be because of our flight attendant who didn't really know CPR. But that person lied to us. We didn't know that he lied to us. So we're going to have our team of 1 million lawyers, sue him. And you should sue him, this former flight attendant that we just fired for lying and putting your life in danger. We certainly aren't guilty as an airline company. This person is. So that's more of an extreme example. Most things you're doing, whether you're talking about, a certain software to a certain degree, is not life or death. But just think about, and I've ran into this too, where I've interviewed people and I might know a certain software and I will ask them a question or two to kind of have them prove that they know it. They might say, well, I know video editing software and I'm really an expert on it. I'd say, oh yeah, have you ever run into this problem? Or what do you do this to help it render better? And boy, you can tell instantly, like, if they know it, they'd say, oh yeah, I run it all the time. I do this, which is like the standard thing. Or they'd be like, I don't know. I would just look at things. I would just figure it out. And then they're lying. So resume core components, list things out there, bullet pointed out, simple. It's already saying, as far as that, those key skills and all that, you already understand that's expertise. Be truthful and include things that are about you. But you don't have to weight them like, oh, I'm not going to put Great Plains software because I'm really an expert in this one. You can list both, particularly if the job position is looking at least for some expertise in both. And remember, there's no perfect jobs, but there's no perfect candidates either. So don't be worried about that. But don't be humble. List your core competencies. Be honest too. Don't be like that scuzzy flight attendant. Not that guy in the picture.